Today we're going to be 100%ing Super Mario 3D World, which includes getting every stamp and every green star in every single level, while also finishing all the levels with every character, which I won't be doing since it's really unnecessary. And to keep this video as short as possible, I won't be going over the main game, which is World 1 to World Bowser. I will only be talking about the post-game levels where the difficulty ramps up pretty quick, to say the least. But before we get into the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as it lets me know you guys are liking the content being put out. But now let's get into the game, in which we will be starting with World Star 2 Super Galaxy, which puts us straight into the setting of Super Mario Galaxy as we're reintroduced to Octoombas from that game. And unlike the other enemies in this game, they're not one-hit kills with a single jump. You actually have to ground pound them to get rid of them, which just makes it way harder than it has to be. This level's greatest difficulty comes with the flipping platforms, as the first star is sat right above a block that you have to backflip on since I'm playing as Peach. And not only are the platforms flipping, but the block can also be destroyed by the Octoombas with their cannonballs, as the explosions deal splash damage. I also had issues with the running section too, as I kept falling off on the platform turns, which shouldn't have been as hard as I was making it out to be. But now we get to the second section, where the stamp is sitting at the top of a rotating wall, in which, you guessed it, is pretty much impossible to get without a cat suit, which the level doesn't give you whatsoever. So I had to go all the way back to Super Bell Hill, which is the first level of the game, to get a suit and come all the way back just to get one single stamp. And the cat suit is pretty much only useful in that one section, as every other star doesn't require you to climb a full-on wall. But now with this level done, we now have access to Rosalina, which we'll be using for majority of the levels going forward, as she has her own special attack that the other characters don't, which is the spin attack. And in my opinion, having other suits on is pretty much a handicap if you're playing as Rosalina, as the spin attack gives her more airtime, but she's not able to perform it with power-ups equipped. But now that Rosalina has joined the party, we can now move on to World Star 4, in which we won't be using Rosalina at all. Yes, I know I said we would be using her from now on, but just on this level. But the character we will be using is Toad, as this level requires us to follow the moving flagpole and collect the stars and stamp along the way. And Toad is the only character that makes doing this as easy as possible, as you're able to get ahead of the flag and collect everything without stress. The Captain Toad levels doesn't give us any problems at all either, as the Toad levels are pretty much simple to get around if you know what you're doing. And speaking of giving us problems, this now leads us straight into level Star 9, and my god did this level drive me mad because of all the directional platforms. In the opening of this level, we use these directional platforms to proceed through the level, but we must wear a cannon on our head in order to collect the stamps, which requires us to shoot the blocks in order to create a bridge to the stamp. But aiming on a moving platform is really hard, and is also one of the main themes of this level, since in the last section we must shoot these switches so that the path for the platforms are able to be formed, as we don't just fall off like idiots. This level took me about 20 minutes to complete because of how hard it is to control these platforms and trying not to fall while either collecting a star or shooting the switches, but we got it in the end, even if the second star was impossible to find. But now with World Star done, we now get to World Mushroom, which is where things start to pick up a bit, as now we've reached the remix levels, where some of the older levels from the main game make an appearance but are made much harder, such as having less time to complete a level, or more enemies are added, or the level completely changes as a whole. Overall, this world isn't that bad compared to what's coming up next, though I did just say that things do start to pick up in World Mushroom, but I just meant that this world is just the appetizer for what's coming up in World Flower, and that all starts with level Flower 2. And in my opinion, out of the entire game excluding World Crowns levels, this might be the hardest level, and it's not even close. Unlike its main game counterpart, this level requires you to use the fire flower within this level and light up all the torches in order to spawn the green stars. Now unless you're like me, you would happily take the 2 fire flowers this level offers you to get through this level, but being me and wanting to preserve all the power-ups I have, I didn't take it and made myself suffer by going through the level with only 1 fire flower. So if I ended up losing the power-up, I'd be forced to die and restart the entire level. And this level makes taking damage pretty easy, as there are flying dry bones everywhere, coupled with fire piranha plants and the sleeping piranha plants that get in the way for no reason at all over a pool of poison. At least these levels don't have any stamps to get, because that would be just an added difficulty I did not want. Skipping swiftly onward is level Flower 9, and to be honest, while writing the script and looking back at the levels, most of them aren't that bad, I can't even lie. I probably just had trauma from the last 2 levels of the game, but we'll get into them later. Level Flower 9 Towering Sunshine Seaside is a pretty tricky one, as you only get 100 seconds to find and collect all the green stars in the level, as well as kill all of the fire bros stacked up on the Goombas in order to finish the level. And now with that being said, it may sound like a simple task, even though it kind of is, but with a large-ish map and only 100 seconds to destroy everything, it gets pretty down to the wire. Heck, I even lost the time at one point, but that's mainly because I didn't know exactly where all the stars were. But in my second attempt, I did exactly what I was set out to do and finished the level before the time ran out. And with that done, we have now reached the end game, where all that stands on our way now is the boss splits, the final mystery house, and the Champions Road. I know I'm leaving out the toad level, but again, as I said, it's easy. So first up on the chopping block is the boss splits, which is every single boss we fought in the entire game condensed into one level. Now all of these bosses except for the clown boss aren't that hard to beat, but that isn't the main focus of the level. The main focus is that we actually are able to beat all of the bosses within the time that we're given and not die before the clown fight, since we're going to have a Ketsu ready to use for that fight, so we have max HP going into it, as he's going to be the only challenge that's posed to us in this entire level. So let's get going with the first boss, which is the snake couple. Now I know what you're thinking, why am I not going into this level with a catsuit already equipped? Well, I'm going to show you a trick to get past this boss without taking any damage, which requires us to not have anything equipped. Only Rosalina and a spin attack are necessary. So all you have to do is go into the middle of both snakes and wait for them to turn to each other, because at the beginning of the fight they look at one another for whatever reason as if they know they're about to die, and all you have to do is spin jump and use Rosalina's spin attack to get higher and jump on their heads one after another, and you'll defeat this boss in about 40 seconds. Pretty quick, right? Yeah, I figured that out about the 20th time I attempted this boss. Well, the next trick, which isn't really a trick but a pattern that I picked up on with the King Kathunk boss fight, which is that he always moves in a vertical line whenever you attack him, so just move down one square and you'll get him easy. Other than that, all the other bosses are done in the ways they're originally meant to be beat. Now I know I just described that entire level as if I finished it in like 10 minutes, but this level actually took me about an hour to complete. I know I suck at Mario, but I beat it anyway, so give me a break. But now with the boss rush out of the way, we now reach World Crown, in which we have just 2 more levels before we complete the game. And again, I say 2 instead of 3 because the toad level is again easy. So let's get into it and finish this thing, starting with the final mystery house of the game, which has a total of 30 green stars. Yeah, the first time I saw that, I was in shock, but no time to get flustered now. Let's get through it, shall we? Now stars 1 to 12 aren't that difficult to capture, as they're all pretty basic, such as killing all the enemies or hitting a P block to spawn the star. It all starts getting really difficult when we get to star 13 and forward, as the star requires you to climb all the way up to the top of this building to capture the star at the top, and we end up making it to the top at 2 seconds remaining on the clock. But the next one is even harder, as it's the same scenario as the last star, but it's sitting on a rock in which we get it with 1 second remaining. Also, as you all probably noticed, I'm playing as Mario in this level and not as any of the other characters, which I'm ashamed to say because I never play as Mario in these multiplayer type of Mario games. But I did choose Mario because he all around has everything in his character kit. He has speed, jump height, and that's about it really. I would have played as Rosalina or Peach in this level, but they're way too slow and give too many close calls with stars in this level. So that's why I'm playing as Mario and not any of the other characters in this game. But now onto some of the harder stars contained within this level, which is first up the bouncing piranha star, in which you are easily able to take damage if you aren't careful. Clearly I wasn't and was forced to go through the rest of the level with 1 hit. Next up is the bullet bill star, where you are easily able to be hit by the bullet bills, as well as making it really easy to not even be able to get up the wall if they destroy most of it. So try to wall jump as fast as you can before they even get to the wall to complete this. And that's about it. The last few stars are relatively easy unless you get hit with one of Spike's rods, then you're dead. But other than that, you should be good to go. And again, I'm saying this like I beat this first try, which I didn't, because this took me about another hour to complete this level. And that coupled with the last level's completion time doesn't come close to the next level we have up, which is Champions Road, which is hands down the hardest level this entire game and one of the hardest levels in the entire 3D Mario franchise, because not only does this level not have any checkpoints, but you get no power-ups all throughout this level. So if you want to beat this level, you better not take any damage, which is what I attempted to do before I deemed it too hard and decided to use a catsuit to get past this piranha wall section. But I'm going to break down this entire level before we get into that, so let's go. The first section is the easiest part of the level, as it just requires simple platforming and dodging some Octoombas and Fire Bros. But the last part of this section is a bit tricky, as it makes you run across these narrow platforms while also dodging the charging chucks, which if you don't position yourself right can kill you by either falling through the cracks or taking unnecessary damage on accident, which lowers your chances of finishing the level. But the second section contains beat blocks that change every second, and you must take your time here, as rushing this section will 100% kill you because you will be offbeat if you try to move fast out of this part. So just take your time here, as there are many other places in this level where you can take shortcuts, just not here. And to end this section off, you kill 3 Kamex and you move on to the trapeze section, where you must time your jumps with the swinging spike rods. My advice is to just jump even though you know the rod might not hit you, which most likely likely will not be the case. It just keeps you safe so that you know for sure that you will not be hit. Which now takes us to the wall jumping section, which I absolutely hate because the ant section is pretty easy, but the piranha plant section is what made me use the cat suit, as every time without fail, as soon as I get to the top piranha, I end up taking damage for absolutely no reason. So I ended up choosing to equip the cat suit, which I used to climb up the wall after hitting 2 or 3 of the plants so I don't take damage on the last one. As much as I really wanted to complete this level without power-ups, I just couldn't get past it. And now we get to the water section, which is relatively easy as dodging these spikes while underwater isn't hard at all. But now for the last section, which is the speed boost section, which in my opinion is the hardest part of the entire level, because not only are you speed boosting trying to collect all these key coins, but you also have to dodge the lasers by jumping and potentially jumping off the stage because of how fast you're going. But with the power of Rosalina, we're able to save ourselves multiple times from taking damage to the lasers and falling off the stage by spinning in the air, which allows us to stall for 1 second and redirect ourselves. Now, to anyone who has beaten this level with Mario without any power-ups, you are an absolute god, because I don't know how I'll be able to do that with my skill set. But now with that section over and done with, we finally reached Nintendo's signature thank you screen and reached the end of the level where we collect the final stamp and gold flag and say we beat every single level in Super Mario 3D World. Technically not 100%, but this is 100% in my books. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check out the video on the top left for when I beat this game while crouching. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace!